All right. Good afternoon. Welcome to Deerwood Academy's Go Team meeting, where we'll follow the agenda that has been emailed to you and publicly noted. I am pleased to call the meeting for Deerwood Academy's Go Team to order. Our first order of business is the call of roll. The secretary will now call the roll. Go ahead, Ms. Scott.
Let's keep going.
Did the recording come back on, Ms. Anton?
Yes, you should be good.
Okay. Okay, good afternoon. I will call the roll for this evening's Go Team meeting. Joy Anton,
Present.
Kayla Gunn, Wanda Neal,
Present.
Rashana Osgood, James Miles,
Present.
myself, Charlotte Scott, Jeremiah Blunt,
Present.
Jonathan Gales,
Present.
Demetrius Rowe, and Norman Whaley.
Present.
Thank you.
The team will only take action if there's a quorum. Secretary, is there a quorum?
Yes, there is.
All right. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and move on. Our first order of business is to approve the agenda. This will be provided to you, the copies that were probably previously emailed to you. If you can, please take a moment to review the agenda. And I want to know if there are any changes that need to be made to the agenda. If not, may I get a motion to approve the agenda?
I move that we approve the agenda as written.
I
Do we
second
have a
that
second?
motion.
All right.
Who second?
Mr. Miles.
All right. The agenda has been motioned to be approved in second. All in favor, say aye. Or by raising your hands.
Aye.
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 All opposed, say nay. Or raise your hand. Are there any abstentions? The agenda has been properly accepted. All right, now we're going to move on to the next item is the approval of the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes were also provided to you by email. Are there any corrections to the minutes from the last meeting? If there aren't any corrections, may I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from last week's meeting?
I move that we approve the meeting minutes as written.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All right. The minutes from last week's meeting has been properly motioned and second. All in favor by the raising of hands or saying aye.
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 All opposed? All opposed, raise your hand or say nay. Are there any abstentions? All right. The minutes from last week's meeting has been properly approved. Okay, now I'm going to go ahead and move on to our action items. And this is where I turn it over to Principal Anton.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Whaley. We will move on to our discussion items. And the first discussion item that we have is an update on the gifted delivery model. And so we have to look at starting to financially prepare for the elimination of a collaboration as a gifted delivery model. This is something that is actually mandated by our Georgia Department of Education, the State Department. And so we need at least one teacher with gifted certification at each grade level. Currently, we do have 25 gifted students, K-5. And this is what we currently look like in terms of our staff. In kindergarten and first grade, we don't have any gifted teachers at those levels. Second grade, we do have one gifted teacher, third grade, two, fourth grade, two, and fifth grade, at least one. Right now, when you have a student that qualifies for gifted or moves in with gifted certification, or gifted eligibility, because we don't have any kids in first grade, for example, any teachers in first grade, for example, with gifted certification, we've been currently using the collaboration model where our gifted lead teacher goes in and collaborates with that teacher. But like I said, because the state is eliminating that model, we are looking at trying to get at least two, at a minimum, two additional teachers into the gifted endorsement program. And so that is the gifted delivery model updates. And so at this time, to ensure alignment with the district's budget timeline, we need to review and potentially adjust our current budget meeting schedule. And so there were some things that came up in which after we created our meeting dates, we were given some additional things that we had to do with the budget. And so this kind of offset things. And so right now, what we need to do is look at our current upcoming meeting dates and make sure it's aligned with the tasks that we have to do according to the district's timeline. And so here's where we are. Step one, we had to update the strategic plan and rank priorities. We did that. Step two, we had the principals workshop, January 15th. We did attend that. Step three, Go Team budget allocation meeting, and which has to be held between January 15th and January 31st, which we found out on the 15th, which is why we're here today. So we will be in compliance with that. Today, we are having our budget allocation meeting. Step four is for cluster superintendent discussion. So we'll be talking with our cluster superintendents about our budgets. And then step five is the Go Team feedback meeting, which is early February through February 14th. So we do have to have a meeting between those by February 14th. And then step six will be the cluster superintendent review, which is February 17th through 21st. Next, step seven, principals will have what you call staffing conferences, where we have to sit before like a budget team, where we have to explain our budgets and make sure that it is that we have it such that we can move forward with approval. And in that staffing conference, they may say, hey, we can approve these things, but we may have to do something with this over here, or they may be okay with the total budget. Anyhow, we may have some adjustments that we have to make after our feedback meeting, once I go to the staffing conference. But then after that, if any changes are made, we will have a final budget approval meeting with this Go Team, and it has to be done before March 15th. Okay. And so any questions about that? Okay. All right. And so at this time, we need to take action. That means we do have to vote to change our meeting calendar if we need to change our meetings to meet these deadlines, like I explained earlier. So the allocation meeting is today. So we're in compliance with that because we are having it before January 31st. Now we have two upcoming meetings we need to make sure that we are on schedule for, and that it falls within those guidelines. So we have to set up a feedback meeting, and it has to be before February 14th. Now, our upcoming scheduled meeting is February 4th. Okay, that's next Tuesday. The issue I see with that, even though it is before February 14th, is that Friday, our budgets would be locked and our assistant superintendents, our cluster superintendents will be reviewing them. And they'll be looking at our signature program tab to see if they approve of what we are proposing. And so we'll get that feedback February 7th. So depending on how that goes, we want to be able to come back to this meeting to look at that and have those discussions after that process. February 4th does not give us that opportunity. And so I propose for us to meet on February 11th. And then we also have the approval meeting. Right now, our meeting in March is March 4th. So the question is, do we need to change this date? This meeting must be after the staffing conference. My staffing conference is February 24th, and it has to be before March 14th. So the March 4th date is after the staffing conference, and it is before March 14th. So at this time, I'll open up the floor for feedback in terms of the proposed date and as to whether we need to change our March 4th date.
Is the 11th, is that the week of winter break?
The week of winter break, I do believe, let's see, I have the calendar right
No,
here.
I'm just asking you. I was trying to put my calendar up.
Yeah, I have it here. So the week of winter break is, let's see. So President's Day is the 17th, and then winter break is the 18th through the 20th.
Okay. Okay. That's the week after. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't have a problem with the 11th. If we need
Yeah,
to.
that sounds fine. Yeah, 11th sounds fine with me also.
Okay. Anyone else? It is a Tuesday.
I agree with the 11th as well.
Okay. Mr. Wade?
I was also concerned about the date conflict, but there isn't one, as Mr. Whaley checked. 11 sounds great. Thank you.
Yes, the 11th is good.
Okay. And so, Mr. Whaley, we do have to take action on that. And then what about the March 4th? We are in compliance with the March 4th date, or is there any, do we feel there are any changes that need to be made to that date?
The 4th sounds good as well.
The 4th worked for me as well.
Same.
All right.
Fine.
Well, okay. Well, since we are in agreement, can we make a motion to approve these new dates?
I just
Can
have
someone
one
make a-
question
Yeah, go
about
ahead.
March the 11th. It's no conflict for me, but I see that is you guys' Orlando school trip. So I don't know if anyone on here is attending that and if it would impede on attending the
Thank you.
meeting.
Thank you for that, Ms. Mills.
No problem.
Does that impact anyone on the call?
No.
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay.
So Principal Antonio, just to be clear, we're talking about one date change, correct?
It sounds like, based on the team's feedback, we're only looking at the February 4th date being changed to February 11th. And it sounds like based on the feedback, we're leaving March 4th as is, correct?
Okay.
I
Well,
have
I
a
would-
question. Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to ask about the time.
Yes, so those meetings are at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
I would like
Okay.
to submit a motion that we move the feedback meeting to February 11th at 6 p.m.
Do we have a second?
I second that motion.
All right. Now, the action has been properly moved in a second. Can we have Everyone raise their hand or say aye if you agree.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Do we have any abstentions? If not, this plan of action has been approved for the date changed for the meeting in February from the 4th to the 11th.
Thank you, Mr. Whaley. Okay. And so at this time, we will move into the budget development. The Go Team budget development process includes our school strategic plan, which is a roadmap. It is our direction, our priorities, is based on our vision, and our present and future. And so, of course, you know, we went through data review over the course of our last couple of meetings. We had a strategic plan review. We prioritized our strategic priorities. And so now we've arrived at the budget development process, okay? And so what this meeting is about, during this first budget meeting, basically the key takeaways for today is that we are only walking you through what is allocated in our budget. We will continue this conversation during the next budget meeting. And in that meeting, that is where we will be able to provide that feedback in February. Okay, so biggest thing today is that we are reviewing the allocation. And this meeting provides an opportunity for us to ensure alignment on the school's key strategic priorities, gain a deeper understanding of the budget and position allocations, discuss the proposed requests for signature program funds, and provide input to drive the development of the draft budget. And so, like I said, we are in compliance because this has to take place between January 16th and January 31st. All right. And so my role in this process is to design the budget and propose operational changes that can raise student achievement, formulate strategies, implement and manage them at the school level, focus on day-to-day operations, serve as the expert on the school, hire quality instructional and support personnel, collaborate with you on the use of school-level flexibility for position allocations, turnaround initiatives, and signature programs. This is a new process for fiscal year 26, which is next year. And as we go throughout the review of our allocations, I'll point out some of those things that are definitely new. Even the way that we're sharing, everything we're sharing this year, it will be quite different from what we've done in the past. As some of you, if you've been with us or been following the Go Team budget meetings, you'll see why. The Go Team's role is to focus on the big picture. We always look at positions and resources, not people, not the people in the role, okay? We ensure that the budget is aligned to the school's mission and vision and that resources are allocated to support key strategic priorities. You collaborate with the principal on the use of school level flexibility for position allocations and signature programs, okay? All right, so as we move forward, this, once again, these are our strategic priorities. I won't have to go through that whole slide. I think we're all familiar with this, correct? Okay. All right. Now, what we will look at is this is how we rank our school priorities. And then for each school priority, we have a rationale. And so our top ranked priority was to strengthen the cultivation of critical foundational math, reading, and critical thinking skill instruction for continual and long-term academic growth. So the rationale is that this is a need on a continuous basis to ensure our students are getting what they need to reach proficiency in reading on our winter map assessment, 55% in reading and 57% in math. In terms of our students in grades K-5, they were meeting and exceeding their growth targets on the map assessment. However, we are very excited about the amount of the number of students who are reaching their goals or exceeding their goals, but we also still have to look at the proficiency rate, whereas we had 33% of our students who reached reading proficiency or distinguished or above, and 21% in math. I will say those both of those percentages are an increase from last year, at least from 3 to 5% increase from last year. So we have to continue to work in that area. So that was our top priority. Our second priority was to address the gap between students with disabilities and non-student with disabilities. So those are our general ed students and our students who are served with special education services, closing that gap. Because when you look at our map data from winter, from December, 10% of our students with disabilities were proficient and above in math. And then compared to students who do not receive services at 22%. So there's a gap. In reading, still a gap. 10% of our special ed students were proficient and above, which was an increase from the fall. However, the gap is 10% with our students with disabilities and 34% with our students who are not receiving services. Our third priority was to build in systems and resources to support academic excellence for all scholars. So given the proficiency rates of 33% in reading and 21% in math, systems of supports are needed to address students who struggle with foundational skills. And just to give you examples of what type of academic support and systems and resources that we have in place, for example, we have early intervention teachers that we definitely use in our school. We have part-time teacher tutors. We have a whole child intervention team, which analyzes student data and determine what type of support is needed and look at progress monitoring on a weekly basis. This includes like our clinical therapist, our school psychologist, our counselor, our social worker, our special ed lead teacher, the principal, assistant principal, and our MTSS coordinator, which is multi-tiered systems of supports coordinator. And so through those avenues, there are lots of resources that we build in and academic support for our scholars. The fourth priority was to provide consistent access to social, emotional, and behavioral growth opportunities. Like I said, we do have a clinical therapist that we continue to place on our budget. Social emotional learning takes place daily at Deerwood Academy. It is an essential part of our program to ensure our students have the right capacity to achieve academically. Students, we want to see our students exhibit positive behavior and be in the right mindset so that they can do well. Our MTSS coordinator, along with our WCI team, we do meet weekly to look at to examine, to look at making sure that there are students who are not falling through the gaps who need that type of support, in addition to what we do tier 1 level with all students. We also rank number 5 at increased use of individual data to promote student participation in various personalized learning models and choice. This is a need on a continuous basis. Just like we said with our first priority, looking at our proficiency rates and our growth, the percent of students meeting their growth goals would definitely solidify why we need to make sure that we continue to look at personalized learning and choice with our students to make sure we're addressing their individual needs. Number 6 was to strengthen the pre-K through 5 transdisciplinary teaching and learning through inquiry. And this is basically what we do in terms of our signature programming with IB, okay? We want to continue to improve, make sure that we're improving teacher efficacy in literacy development and actually all of the core areas as we implement IB with all content areas and making sure that they have rigorous and culturally relevant responsive curriculums in all core areas. And so number 7 was to increase leader and staff efficacy and strengthening the whole school program. We do strongly believe that we need to solicit teacher and staff input in our operations and our academic program in order to reach our goals. And last but definitely not least, because we did think all of these were very important, is to provide various engagement and collaboration opportunities for family awareness. We feel that it is of high importance to look for additional ways to engage our parents with professional learning so that we can continue to enhance our student achievement and support at home. Any questions about those? Okay. All right, and so now we will move on to the discussion of the budget allocation. Okay. And so this budget represents an investment plan for our school students, employees, and the community as a whole. The budget recommendations are tied directly to our strategic vision and direction. The proposed budget for the general operations of the school are reflected at $7,833,361. And this investment plan for next year accommodates a student population that is projected to be 436 students, which is an increase of 8 students from last year, from this year, FY 25. The allocation tab that we're going to look at has 3 tables, and what they show, they're going to show fiscal year 26, which is next year, and the current year, fiscal year 25, and then it shows the change in each area. So this will help us understand how our school earned funds and positions for fiscal year 26 in comparison to fiscal year 25, and how changes in each line impact our overall school budget. All right. So as we look at this slide, it does show changes in allotments from FY 25 to FY 26. So if you, the changes in enrollment are very important. So if you look up top, at the top of each one of these tables, you will see where it says total, I'm sorry, FY 2025 projected enrollment was 428 students, and now in FY 26 it's 436. If you look at that third spreadsheet to the far right, you'll see that it's a difference of 8. The change is 8 students, okay, in a positive direction. All right. So changes in enrollment are really, really important because if you look at the actual SSF categories, the counts, the weights, and the allocations, SSF is the student success formula, is what our district used to determine how to allocate funds to schools. And so the base per pupil allocation in this year's student success formula is $6,007, which is an increase of $673 from last year. And so that's the base per pupil, okay? Very important to understand that. Using the student success formula, funding formula, there are many different combinations of attributes that are used to meet the needs of our students. And these attributes are listed here on these spreadsheets, and they come in the form of where you see grade level, you see poverty, you see concentration of poverty, EIP/REP, and we're going to go through each one, special ed and gifted, okay? And so as we go through those, it's important to note that when you look at FY 25 and FY 26, you're going to notice that more money have been placed into the grade levels, as you also see the weights change for each one, okay? So it used to be that money went into like K1 and 2, those grade levels, and you didn't see anything in grades 4 and 5. But when you look at FY 26, you actually see weights in all grades, K through 5, and you also see an increase in funds for the most part. So most of the money actually went to those grade levels. Poverty actually went from 0.47 in fiscal year 25 to 0.35 this year. And that is because more of the funds were placed at the grade level attribute. And then the concentration of poverty weight is not being funded this year at all, okay? You also see what where it says EIP, and that is what we call early intervention program. So based on Georgia milestone scores, MAP assessment scores, teacher rubrics, classroom observations, kids who struggle, who have real struggles in reading and math, they may be below the 20th percentile when we look at their assessment data and triangulate that data. we utilize EIP teachers in elementary and at Deerwood Academy to help work with these students, okay? To give them that additional support. And so that's what that is. REP is going to be in secondary, EIP in elementary. Special education weights actually stayed the same, but the number of students increased. So we have more money this year. Gifted, with the gifted program, we have the same amount of students at that time because we've since increased. However, we have the same amount of students based on this at the beginning of the year, but the weight increased. So there's more money there. Okay. So this shows you the changes from last year to this year. Okay. Any questions about this slide before I move forward?
Could you explain concentration of poverty? Is that can you explain that?
Yeah. So concentration of poverty is basically, it's an additional supplement to those students directly certified at a much lower weight. However, and it can be confusing when you look at poverty weight and then you have the concentration of poverty. Like poverty weight, that's applied to students for low income households. And we pretty much, we have that data through, there's paperwork that parents fill out, you know, related to income. And, you know, that normally goes through our nutrition department and we look at free and reduced lunch. However, they do use like a direct certification percentage with the weights applied for those grade levels with poverty weights. But with concentration of poverty, like I said, that's like an additional supplement to the poverty weights for students who are certified at a much, much lower weight. And so no one received that this year.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope I answered your question clearly. All right, so I'm going to move to the next slide. All right, so on this particular slide, one big, huge thing I need you to notice here is that schools, all schools have a signature program in APS, okay? Some schools have turnaround. Some schools are considered to be a turnaround school. However, we are not a turnaround school because we're not on a targeted list for, you know, when you take the Georgia milestones at the end of the year, if you have a huge gap between certain populations or if you're at the bottom 5%, I do believe it's the bottom 5%, you know, in the state, you could run the risk of being put on a targeted list. And so at that time, you will receive turnaround funds. We're not on that list. We're not a turnaround school. So that's going to be zero. But I do want you to draw your attention to signature program because this is different this year. It's actually the first time we've done it this way. So notice that last year, FY25, I'm looking at the chart in the middle, the table in the middle, for signature programming, which is our IB program, the International Baccalaureate program, we received $260,000 last year for that program. When you look at FY26 on the far left, is zero. So we did not receive any funds for a signature program for the upcoming year. So what principals are charged to do is we have to build a budget for signature program and we have to request the amount of funding needed to implement IB. It will be reviewed on January 31st and we will receive notice of approval or whether our requests are not approved by February 7th. And so just keeping in mind, it is not a wish list. It is what we actually need in order to implement IB. But we will get into that on a later slide. Okay. If you continue to look at this slide, you'll notice that there are some differences. And like I said, Title I, we are a Title I school. You'll see that amount increased. Family engagement, we had a slight increase. This year is different. We actually received the school security grant again, and it was in our budget this year. We got it after the fact last year. Let me see any other huge, the student success formula holdback is zero this year. So that's different. And you'll see the total allocations as compared to last year at the very bottom. Okay. All right. So the next tab we're going to look at is what we call the summary tab. So this slide is very important to note these definitions here over to the far right, because on this tab, you're going to see some very important information. And this is also different this year. Some of the columns that we have are different, and it'll help you to understand. But there are some positions that are earned, okay? Those positions that are earned are allocated by district departments, and there is no school level flexibility with these positions. That means we can't touch it. We can't increase it. We cannot decrease those numbers. We have to leave it alone. They're not flexible. Okay, so that's the earned column. Funded, that column explains the district recommended staffing for positions where there is a school level flexibility with that position. And so that's a new column this year. We've not had that in the past. Staff, that column shows how the position is currently staffed at the school. So we're talking about kindergarten. If you see the number 3, that means we are staffed. We've hired 3 teachers for kindergarten. If you see the difference column, that's going to show you the difference between the recommendation from the district and what actually is. Okay, so if there is parentheses around it, that means we did something a little different. There's a difference. And in those cases, we actually have to comment or explain what's going on there and what we're doing. And so in terms of the comments, we have to provide comments if there's a difference in what is funded and what is staffed. And so we'll discuss rationales provided for those cases. All right. So on this tab, this shows you the position titles. You also see, like I said, what's earned, what's funded, what's staffed, and you see the difference, okay? And so, for example, in kindergarten, we're funded next year for 4 teachers. On one of our previous slides, I'm not sure if that's on there or not, but they actually give us our projection. Our projections, we increase by 8 students, but they also give us the projections for each grade level. And so based on the number of students that we're projecting to have for each grade level, this is how much we're funded for, okay? So in kindergarten, we're funded for 4 teachers, and so we'll be staffed for 4 teachers, okay? First grade, likewise, 3 teachers, and we'll be staffed 3. Second grade, due to the numbers which decrease, for second grade, 3 teachers are funded and 3 teachers are staffed. For third grade, 4 teachers are funded. However, we have 3 staff. And so you see those parentheses there. So that's a case where we will have to discuss this with our cluster superintendent for approval. And so basically, what we're looking at there is in third grade, we are funded 4 teachers, but staff 3. However, we're looking at filling that 4th position with an EIP teacher, so we are actually waiting for approval. Okay. All right. 4th grade, we're funded 3. We're staff 3. 5th grade, we're funded 3. We're actually staff 3. Reading K-5, we're not funded for that position, but we are staffed with 1 reading K-5 teacher, and the difference is not in parentheses, it's 1. For the art teacher, we are funded 1 and we have 1, staff for 1. For a band, it's 0.25. We actually share our band teacher with all of the elementary schools in our cluster. With music, likewise, we're funded 1, and we're staff 1. Let me make sure I get my. Can y'all still see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Make sure. Hold up. Let me make sure I got you on the right screen. I don't know, something crazy just happened. You all
Yeah,
can see.
we're on the right screen. I'm also following on my laptop too. But yeah, we're on the right screen.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Let me make sure I'm on the right screen. Because I see YouTube. Just a second. Okay. Yes. Now we're back in action. Okay. All right. So now one thing I want you to take a look at is, so if you look at Teacher World Language, for example, we are funded for one, but you see the differences in parentheses. So in that case, we are actually funded for one world language teacher, but we are waiting for approval. And it's for because of the signature programming tab, which we're going to get into, and we're going to talk about that at a later slide. Okay, because signature programming, one of the things that it requires is that we have world language teachers. So that is why it is not staffed just yet. Okay. Then you see we have EIP teachers. Teacher EIP 1 through 3, we have 5 teachers, and 4, 5, we have 1. So we do utilize our EIP teachers at every grade level to make sure that we are making sure that our kids get what they need for those struggling students, and it also helps to lower class size. Okay. Also, when you look at CTE teachers, ESOL, that's your English to speakers of other languages. We share a teacher with Continental Colony. And so you see that we actually earn that position. We cannot change it. We can't do anything to that because we earned it, and it's funded by the district. Teacher interrelated, those are our 3 special education teachers, whether it's resource or whether it's co-teach. And then we can't do anything that's not a flexible position. Those aren't flexible positions. We cannot change those. They are earned. Likewise with our lead teacher in special ed, our CELT, that is a fix, is earned. We cannot touch it. But we earn 0.5, like a half a day CELT. Okay. And I know that was one of the things we had high on our priorities, and we're going to talk about that as well. Now, when we look at the next slide, we do have 2 earned teachers who are, they do MOID, that's our moderate intellectual disability self-contained classes. We're staffed 2, and we actually have 2. So we're good there. Now notice right here, we have the special ed lead teacher again. We saw it up top, it was earned at 0.5. In this case, it's not earned. As a school, we thought it was very important to have a CELT or special ed lead teacher here full time. So as a school, we pay the other part of that salary. So we've added a 0.5 to make sure that that position is here. We have a full-time position. So that is why you see that twice. One is school funded, one is district funded. Also special ed, paraprofessional special ed, that is one that we earn. It is not a flexible position. We cannot touch it. So we do earn 3. We're staff 3, okay? Paraprofessional in kindergarten. And so because next year, FY26, we earned 3. We're funded, 4 for teachers for kindergarten. The thing about kindergarten is that kindergarten teachers, when they have up to 23 students, we have to have a paraprofessional. So this is why you see here, we don't, it's not funded, we don't earn it, but we are staffing 4, okay? And we have to pay for a 4th kindergarten parapro. We also have 1 principal, 1 assistant principal, 1 school business manager. Okay. All right. On this particular slide, you'll see here that we do have 1 school secretary. Okay. It says here that we are funded for a 0.5 bookkeeper, but you do see the parentheses here. And whenever you see these parentheses, it's a difference, and we have to explain what we're doing there. So we have a school secretary who acts as secretary / bookkeeper. And so with that, and we also have a school clerk and a business manager. So really, we wouldn't have a need to have a 0.5 bookkeeper because of our secretary / bookkeeper. So here is, we would be explaining that there would be no need for this because we have a full-time secretary here. We also have it says we funded for one school clerk, which at 211 days. However, last year we changed this position to 202 days. So we'll have to explain that, and that person is staffed and funded for that's one whole position. So we do not have a need for a school clerk that's on a 211-day schedule. So we'll be explaining that to our superintendent. And then you'll see here where we don't earn a clinical therapist, but as a school, we felt the need that was important. So we are funding that, and it's staffed. That's one position. We do earn a counselor position. That's also a position that we can't touch. It's not flexible. We earn it. It's staffed. And also we actually earn, we earn a readers or leaders coach, and it is staffed, it's funded, okay? Media specialist likewise, we do earn it, it's funded and staffed, okay? Here we do earn one social worker, we're staffed for one. Specialist SST intervention, that's the student support team. We call it the MTSS coordinator at our school. They are in charge of making sure that every kid in our building that needs an intervention in reading, math, that person leads our WCI team, our whole child intervention team. We meet weekly. So it is not an earned position, but we do feel that it is very important. And so we do fund and staff that as well. Okay, here we do earn two custodians. We're staffed two. We actually share a school psychologist with another school. So we have them 0.5, half of the time we have them. And a school resource officer for next year, we actually earn one school resource officer. And so we'll be staffed with our own school resource officer. Site manager, that's our building engineer. He fixes everything in the building when something's going wrong. We earn one, we're staffed one. And in terms of paraprofessionals in pre-K, we have two, we'll be staffed with two. And then paraprofessionals in special ed, we have three. And so we will be staffed with three. We also have four. We can't adjust anything with these at all. This is our cafeteria workers here. All right, any questions with those before I move to the next tab?
Yes, I had a question about the world language, and I saw that there was one, and he said it was all pending on the signature program. If we are able to keep the signature program, are we still trying to do 1.5, or just that one is in the air? I'm just trying to get an understanding on that.
So we really can't discuss that until we know what we are approved of, because
Okay.
that happens impact the budget and the amount of funds we have to play around with. And so that would be going back to the table and looking at how do we adjust these funds to get what we need? And that's where we'll be able to have those feedback discussions.
Gotcha.
All right. All right. So any other questions before I move forward? All right. So looking at our non-staffing tab, this particular tab shows how funds are allocated for non-staff items in the school. There is school level flexibility for most of these items. It has, and the way it's set up, they have and this is very different this year. They have recommendations from the district, as you see, where you see REC, and then you have the actual allocation that we place there, and then you see a difference. So whenever you see a difference, we have to explain. So as you see at the top, you see $112,992. So through the student success or SSF model, remember we talked about that, schools earn dollars instead of positions. And so the dollars include like a base amount for each student that we saw on one of the previous slides, plus additional weights that are based on those student attributes that we talked about. And so that amount, that $112, that becomes really important at the beginning of the year when we're going through leveling, okay? So keep in mind, those first 10 days of school, first 10 to 15 days of school, when we're trying to make sure that we have teachers calling their students, calling parents, making sure we get them to school. Sometimes Fulton County might start a little later than we do, and kids are still out, because they see kids in the neighborhood still out. It's really important those first 10 to 15 days of school that our kids come to school and they are accounted for during those warm body counts. Because if we don't make our projected numbers, we do not get these funds in this reserve. Okay, it's all dependent on meeting those projections. Okay, so that's an important number to understand. Okay, and remember that previous slide where we talked about base weights per pupil. Just keep in mind, for every kid that does not show up, we have to pay that money back. So that's very important. Okay, now per student. Now, this year, I think I said it earlier, one change is that they did add in the security grant funds on this particular tab. But we'll go ahead and start with teacher stipends. So you notice that there is no recommendation for teacher stipends. There's nothing there under recommended. However, we placed $15,000 there. Because we are always encouraged to make sure that when we have teachers and staff working beyond their hours, beyond the school day, that we try to compensate them with a stipend. And so these are people who lead teams like the literacy team, the math team, PBIS team, club sponsors like debate, junior beta, girls on the run, science Olympiad, all of those things. And even with that, that still doesn't cover members who are on the team. So, covering members on the team, that could add an additional $10,000 to $15,000, $20,000. So as we look at this, I want you to keep those things in mind as we come back for our feedback. Secretary overtime, when our secretary has to stay after school to deal with money. When we're dealing with money, whether it's concessions and things like that, we have very strict guidelines we have to follow as it relates to auditing. And so we do try to put something there in the event that our secretary has overtime. Contracted services, this is when we have events like, professional learning, for example, when KC, that's an organization that comes out to the school and provide professional learning for our staff, or if anyone else comes out and works with our staff, those funds are set aside to pay those individuals. The postage, we normally use that for mailings throughout the year, and the bulk of that is used at the end of the year when we have to mail out report cards, Georgia milestone reports, things of that nature. Web-based subscriptions and licenses, because as you see in all of these areas, the district recommended 0, but we did place some money there. Web-based subscriptions and licenses, these are platforms that pretty much play a really important role for our staff as it relates to instruction. Some of those are used as instructional tools. Some are used as interventions. Last year, the district did tell us we had to purchase our own interventions, for example. And so we use some of these funds to do that. While other, some of those digital platforms also assist with assessment purposes, they're assessment platforms. So we do evaluate that each year, the usage, and looking at, trying to determine what we need to purchase, what the district is providing versus, and making sure that we don't purchase something that the district has purchased. District funded field trips. We do have like CEP trips and district field trips there. And normally we use about $3,000 for that to pay for transportation, teaching, and other supplies. We were also over in that area. So just to kind of give you a ballpark figure on what we normally spend at the beginning of the year, making sure that all teachers have supplies. And this is only at the beginning of the year. Last year, we had $40,000 in that slot. So as you can see, this is significantly lower, and the district recommended lower than what we have here. So that's definitely something to look at. I think there's nothing that's on that one, but we do have a continuation of this slide. And so for media supplies, the district recommended $3,488. We were recommending $6,700. Reason being is because every year when we look at that, we always look at the cost per pupil that we're supposed to spend on media services, which is $15.31 per pupil. And so based on our projected number of students we have next year, if you multiply that times $15.31, this is where you're going to be at $6,700. And we do take literacy and reading very, very serious at Deerwood. And we have an active media team, which is actually kind of combined with our literacy team. Whereas we're constantly looking at what books interest students so that we can purchase those books, what's needed based on what teachers are teaching and how they can integrate it with what they're teaching with their curriculum. And so those discussions are definitely had, and it's an ongoing process. And we want to be able to continue to service our Learning Commons, our media center, with the appropriate materials to make sure that we keep that top focus. So that actually, oh, and then you have the security grant equipment there that's included in that tab this year that wasn't there last year. So any questions about this tab before we move forward? Okay, all right. So this particular tab shows stipends. That's the district funded stipends. It's going to be things like your grade level chairs, lead school-based mentors, things of that nature. Okay. Also, if you look at substitutes, the district recommended 71,000. We actually went with the recommendation, and then there was a zero recommendation from the district for professional paraprofessional subs. But we did see the need to have subs for our paraprofessionals, and that's going to be like our kindergarten paras, our special ed paras. We do see that there is an impact. It does impact the instruction when our paraprofessionals are out in those areas. Okay. All right, and then last on here, you see the hourly teacher tutor, and so the district recommended 0. We really utilize teacher tutors. They are here during the day, the school day. And they come in at least 4 days a week, and they help us with interventions in reading and math. And so they do play a vital role in what we do every single day. And then that concludes that tab. Do we have any questions? Okay. All right. So next, we're gonna look at our signature program tab. And so keep in mind, we talked about signature programming and turnaround. We're not a turnaround school. So we won't have anything there. That'll be 0. We won't even use that tab, but we do have signature programming, which is IB. And so remember, it's a zero-based budget this year. It's a budgeting process that allocates funding based on program efficiency and necessity rather than budget history. Okay. As such, the initial allocation for these programs at all schools will be at 0. Okay. So we'll go ahead and look at the signature program tab. And so here's what I am proposing. Okay, here's what we're proposing. And like I said, on January 31st, our cluster superintendents will review, and we'll know by February 7th. So in order to implement an IB program, it is required that we have a signature program coach. And so we need to make sure that that is in place. And that's what you see here, this $156,000 position here. And then it is also required that we have world language teachers. And so you do see we have at least one world language teacher here at $127,000. And because of the number of students we have and the requirements for how many hours the time per week they're supposed to have, we also have a part-time world language teacher, and you'll see that down here at the bottom under non-personnel. It wasn't a place up top because it's part-time and it's hourly position. So we had to place it down here at the bottom where it says hourly world language teacher French. And so you can see that there, okay? So those are the three positions that we placed here because it is a requirement to run the program. We also look at signature program travel because leaders have to be sent to trainings. If you have a new leader, if updated training has to be done, the trainers are all out of state, and that's through IB. There's a required annual fee of $9,260 every single year to run the be IB, and we are authorized school, so we are required to pay those fees each year. Where you see a career sponsor stipend, that is actually not for the IB coach. That is actually it's a stipend that we need for paying our teachers when they work off contract during the summer with unit planning. And so we are requesting that so that we can continue that process as we've done in the past. Signature program supplies and resources. So we have Total, like an online platform that we use to store everything. And so when we're up for an evaluation, they go to this platform to make sure that they're checking all of everything that we're doing because there are lots and lots of requirements, and we have been using that platform to make sure that we are doing what we need to do. It's also that 18,000 also includes materials, supplies, instructional items that are needed. Exhibition is something that fifth graders do at the end of the year. Even just purchasing all of the tri-boards and all of that can get to be really expensive for all of our students. And then marketing, we put $2,000 there just for communications and fees and just to buy things like banners and things that we can do to market IB at our school. And so this is what we're proposing. Like I said, we will know by February 7th. And if everything is approved, we're good. If not, then we'll go back to the drawing board and look at the general budget to see what adjustments will have to be made. Okay. Any questions there? Okay. All right. And so just rationales in terms of signature programming. Like I said earlier, like I mentioned, the signature program IB coach, according to the standards and practices of the International Baccalaureate Program, every authorized IB school must have an IB trained coordinator. Okay, that's just a requirement. And then there's standards of service that practices that we have to abide by when it comes to IB. And some of these you'll see them that are where I copied and pasted here, like leadership two, element 1. And then it also shared, and I did share these slides with you prior to today, so that you can just kind of see some of the things that the IB coach assists with. He plans in all of the planning sessions and making sure that IB is implemented and it's looked at through each core, each content area, okay? Also, the world language teacher, once again, it is a requirement that we have world language when we implement the IB program. And signature program travel, we talked about that earlier. We have to make sure that we're sending individuals to the proper training each year. We have to train at least 3 to 4 people each year in addition to that to make sure that we are in compliance by the time we roll around back to our evaluation year. Otherwise, it would be this enormous amount of money we would have to pay for trainings. Dues and fees, that's required every year. Our IB authorized schools are mandated to pay annual dues, and that was that $9,000. And then signature programming on resources and supplies. There's a lot that goes into implementing IB. And so there's a lot of project-based learning materials that we purchase. The construction paper, the art materials, scissors, the tri-boards, just everything that we use. We do need money for those supplies. Also the stipends, I think we communicated that earlier. During the summer, we provide an opportunity for our teachers and instructional coaches to make revisions and updates to the units of inquiry. It is very important because our teachers use that when they come back the next school year, and they are able to utilize those units that have been created over the summer to go along with their core content areas. So we are not a turnaround school, so we will not be requesting any funds on that tab. And that is the allocation for Deerwood Academy. So our Go Team feedback meetings, I think we agreed that it will be February 11th, where we'll take action on a draft budget before February 14th. It's on the 11th, and at that time, we'll know if our signature programming tab was approved. The cluster superintendent review would be February 17th through the 21st. Our HR staffing conferences, my conference is actually on February 24th. And then in March, there will be a final Go Team approval meeting. And after our staff meeting, which is February 24th, we're good because it's March 4th. We'll take action during that meeting on the final budget and recommendation before March 14th as well. Any questions? Okay. All right. And so just some final updates. Then I'm going to hand it back over to Mr. Whaley. We do want to say thank you to Slalom. They were volunteers and they came out to Deerwood on January 20th during the Martin Luther King Day. They worked on beautification projects, cleaning up in different areas, organization or different closets, as well as working on assembly of some items. We had our swag celebration last Friday. That was a hit. Our kids really enjoyed it. These were kids who met their reading and math growth goals from fall to winter. And so students have another opportunity between January and March when they take the MAP assessment again to attend the spring swag if they meet their goals, reading or math or both. Honors programs will take place next week, Monday and Tuesdays. We did post the times and the dates in Class Dojo for each grade level. We will also have a PTA meeting next Tuesday at 5 o'clock. We will elect officers. We're excited about this. We do have 4 willing individuals to serve if we can get them elected so that we can get some things going at Deerwood. Also, we have a Valentine's Day coming up next Friday. Parent conference is February 12th, so make sure you sign up with your teacher. And then we also have a Black History program that's coming up on February 25th. And that concludes my updates. And so one announcement, all Go Team members, please make sure you complete your training prior to the final action on our school's budget. If you need to find that training, you can go to Ellis. And this presentation will be on our website. And so you can pretty much just click here on Ellis if you need to check it out, check out your account. If you have questions about it, please email the Go Team office. All right, I will turn it back over to Mr. Whaley.
Thank you, Principal Antone. Like you said, we're just reminding that we need to take our budget training on the Ellis platform. And now we have reached the end of our agenda. Are there any other additional businesses at this time? If not, may we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I second it.
It has been properly motioned and second. All in favor by raising your hands and saying aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed, raise your hand or say nay. Do we have any abstentions? If not, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you so much, and you all have a good night. Thank you for attending.
Thank you all.
You too.
All right,
Bye-bye.
good night. Good
Bye,
night.
y'all.
Bye-bye.
Good evening.
Good night.